This is We the People News. Never look straight forward, always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Use the Second Amendment. Arm yourself with knowledge. Alrighty, educational purposes only. Anything I say or do is just my opinion only. And we're going to just rush through here. Go, go, go.
And young Henry did the Charter of the Forest. Well, they didn't bring the Charter of the Forest to the United States. They just brought the Magna Carta. They act like the Charter of the Forest didn't exist. It did. But by due process, right, since they didn't take the proper oath, the people that wanted to be that way could say, we didn't take the proper oath, so you don't have any power to enforce the Constitution. And this would be all civil officers take this. And it's from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. Well, just bad is this oath of office of commissioned officers, which says that it falls under 5 U.S.C. 3331, which of course is the one we've been looking at, to create a record of the date of acceptance of appointment. Now, this one doesn't say anything about being an oath of office. Well, it does there, but it doesn't say here. Its principal purpose is to evidence the oath of office being taken, just to create a record of the date of acceptance of appointment. That's what this piece of paper is for. The Social Security number is used to identify the member. They're not identifying people by their name. And your Social Security account is tied to your name with your middle initial, not your full legal name with your full middle name. And if you were to look at the stub that comes with the Social Security card, we're lucky enough to have such a thing, you'd see what I'm talking about. I've shown in other videos. But continuing on, not only that, but whoever's filling this out as an officer, now, commissioned officer, I got nothing against you, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, you're being played for a fool. You didn't join the United States Army, you joined the Army of the United States. And people say, well, there's no difference, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, there is. There's all sorts of difference. And the oath you took doesn't match the wording in 5 U.S.C. 333. I state your name, yeah, and then they want you to put your Social Security number in. It didn't say to do that. Although they did say up here that the Social Security number is used to identify the member. They're not going to use your name. They're going to do it by your Social Security number. So this oath is fucked up. Right? It's blasphemy, for God's sakes. What they did to you, so now let's just look at the words, right? We'll just let the words do the talking. Army of the United States. The Army of the United States, or Armies of the United States, is the legal name of the land forces of the United States. So they say, the Army of the United States was also used as the official name for the conscription force of the United States Army. The last use of Army of the United States was during the Vietnam War. It was disbanded in 1974, 1 year after U.S. forces withdrew from the Republic of Vietnam. There is no Army of the United States. If you go on the United States Army at Wikipedia, it will say that the United States Army, USA, is the largest branch of the United States Armed Forces and performs land-based military operations. It is one of the 7 uniformed services of the United States. United States Army, not Army of the United States, and is designated as the Army of the United States in the United States Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. United States Army, USA, is the proper brand to be in the military. In the United States Army. As the largest and senior branch of the U.S. military, the modern U.S. Army has its roots in the Continental Army, which was formed 75 to
which I'm led to believe and do believe. That's the reason why sometimes, the vets are, going through their uh, funding for the hospitals and all that kind of stuff is because that trickery right there, right? It makes it a little harder for the soldiers to make claim on things when they're in the wrong what branch.
American Revolutionary War before the U.S. was established as a country. First in time, first in line. First in line, first in time. After the Revolutionary War, the Congress of the Confederation created the United States Army on 3 June 1784 to replace the disbanded Continental Army. The United States Army considers itself descended from the Continental Army and dates its institutional inception from the origin of the armed forces in 1775. United States Army, not Army of the United States. So this is the DA Form 71. This is the form that all Army officers fill out thinking they've taken the proper oath. First, you have this, even if it had been written properly, would not have satisfied Article 6 of the Constitution. Whenever any person is elected or appointed to an office of honor or trust under the government of the United States, he, she is required before entering upon duties of his or her office to take and subscribe the oath prescribed by 5 U.S.C. 3331. And this isn't it. It's like you got to send it in on a separate piece of paper. Oath of office may also be taken before any civil officer who is authorized by the laws of the United States or by local municipal law to administer oaths. It'd be like the mayor. And if so administered by a civil official, the oath must bear the official seal of the person administering the oath.
I have to say on this behalf right here, my internet is running good. It's not the internet. It's the channel.
The seal is not you.
And not from his. It's my UT. I guess it's not liking something it's saying, so that's kind of breaking it up.
Used by the official. The official's capacity to administer oaths must be certified under the seal by the clerk or court or other proper local official. So it needs to be under a seal. So even if you said you were to go to the notary to have this done and a notary doesn't have a seal, notary public, you would have to go to the circuit court and get a certificate of acknowledgement, certificate of authority, I think is what they call it, that states that that person actually is a notary. Right? It's like to certify that the person who did the actual deal had the authority to do what they did. Because if somebody was to take this oath and then say that, well, now that made me an officer in the United States Army, I would have to say you're incorrect. You don't need to line up over there. We'll do it again. Right? Let's get us in the mayor for the town and his clerk, and you all take your oath at one time, and hey, just take care of the problem. But right now, you're in the conscription army. You're not in the United States Army. Ain't that something? Okay, hang on one more time. Okay, and so, since I don't know what Mr. Donald John Trump is going to do with the situation he finds himself in, where he hasn't taken the proper oath, none of his civil officers that he calls his staff have taken the proper oath, those that call themselves the commissioned officers of the military don't seem to have taken a proper oath. Unless you guys are hiding this in a different drawer, you're not showing us. Hey, that could be. I mean, I don't know, but from the papers available, you're not taking the proper oath. And I just pointed out because that would be my job as an NCO to say, hey, man, we got a problem, because I will file the fucking procedure. And so here's a procedure I'm going to follow. And see if we get this thing straightened out. It would be called the Michigan Military Act. Every state's going to have one of these, so pay attention, because I'm going to show you where some kryptonite may be. But there's just a few things you might want to know ahead of time. The intent of this act and other acts of this state affecting the Michigan National Guard, the Michigan Defense Force, hey, we do have one, and the unorganized militia, that would be the rest of us, to conform to applicable acts and regulations of the United States. The laws of this state shall be construed to effect this intent, and anything to the contrary shall be held null and void as long as the subject matter shall have been acted upon by the United States. So in other words, it don't matter what it said before, it matters what it says now. The law of this state shall be construed to affect this intent. This is the law of this state, having to do with the Michigan National Guard, the Michigan Defense Force, and the unorganized militia. So what's in this book, what's in this law is the law as far as the military is concerned. So let's see who's in the military. State military establishment, composition, organization, and unorganized militia. The organized militia of this state, taken collectively, shall be known as the state military establishment and constitutes the armed forces of this state. The organized militia consists of the Army National Guard, Air National Guard, the Defense Force when actually in existence as provided in this act. The unorganized militia consists of all other able-bodied citizens. All other able-bodied citizens of this state and all other able-bodied citizens who are residents of this state who have or shall have declared their intention to become citizens of the United States, who shall be age 17 or over and not more than age 60, and shall be subject to state military duty as provided in this act. Everybody between the age of 17 and 60 is in the fucking military. They can call you up in a heartbeat. Everybody. All able-bodied citizens, right? And so the thing is, none of us are citizens. We're all residents. They never properly registered us. We're not getting the credit of being a citizen. We're getting the credit of being a legal alien, or at least a resident, but we're not a citizen. But continuing on, I know that bothers some people, so you don't have to be. I don't really care what you do. I'm not talking to you anyways. I'm talking to the military. I'm talking to Donald John Trump. Man, let's get this shit figured out. Because, brother, you get it done right, and the devil ain't going to know what happened to him. We'll drive his ass like a tent peg. Because the Michigan National Guard is a law enforcement agency under this act. For the purpose of receiving or using property or money forfeited under Title 18. Under the Tariff Act. Certain things. So, if you went and looked at these, say, hey, they're the law. They can enforce the law. And I'm going to do a much more, probably a better video on this, but I really want to get down to a couple things that really mean something. In the case of war or national emergency, I can tell you right now, we're in a national emergency. All you need to do is go to the Federal Register, which is where all the acts of the president are put in, and type in national emergency, and to the left you'll see where, because you're going to get a shitload of hits, then you can pick what kind they are, and if it's presidential documents and you click it, well, that'll narrow it down to maybe, 300-400. And when you open them up, they say extension of ongoing national emergency. Like the war on terror is a national emergency. It gets signed back in every year. Like, every year they just put another order, do it again. We're always in a national emergency. So now then, when National Guard may be in military service in the United States, the Defense Force shall be ready and able to protect the state in case of insurrection, invasion, disaster, or other emergency, actual or imminent. In such case, the governor, as commander-in-chief, may use the Defense Force augmented if necessary by all or part of the unorganized militia, not responsive to orders of the president for the time being. The determination of the governor that an emergency exists or is imminent is conclusive. See, there's one way. Contact the governor as the commander-in-chief and say, brother, we are in this national emergency. Here is, give him a copy of the national, war on terror. That's a national emergency. We're in one. Right? So now we have a problem with, because our problem is we have people usurping the powers of office. That'd be an insurrection. When you go to court, they're not using any court seals, they're taking your property. Well, that just ain't quite right. Well, that isn't the government doing it to you. That's somebody who's usurping the powers of the government. The rebels have taken over the courthouse. Let's see. Reference to Michigan state troops in any law is should refer to the Defense Force. So they're not talking about the Michigan State Police. Michigan state troops are the Defense Force. We got a thing called the Michigan Defense Force. They can use up to 15% of the National Guard to make up the Defense Force. And then they can call up whoever they need to. And I think they're going to have to call a bunch of attorneys because when we get down here, I'm going to show you what they got to do. So Adjutant General appointment qualifications. Not later than 10 days after appointment, the Adjutant General shall file his or her constitutional oath of office with the Secretary of State. Which one would that be? That would be the one for Article 6 of the Constitution that everyone has to take. You may have something else to take, but you must take the one in Article 6 or you're not an officer of anything. All right. So what powers and duties? The Adjutant General is the military advisor of the governor and the director of the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. I think that's a happy one, man. The Adjutant General's office is in Lansing. The Adjutant General may publish orders and other directives in the name of the governor and this state to implement and administer the duties and responsibilities outlined in this act. The Adjutant General's duties include the development and implementation of plans for the defense of state military personnel, lands, installations, resources, maintenance of the personal records of all active, inactive, retired, or deceased personnel of the state military establishment and liaison in the transaction of official business for this state with the United States and with other states and territories. Now we got to stop for a second. So the Adjutant General has personnel records on everybody between the age of 17 and 60, because that would have put you in his jurisdiction. And so these duties are talked about almost read like the Secretary of State. So does that mean the Secretary of State is the Adjutant General, or is the Adjutant General the Secretary of the State? Well, I'm going to find out by just trying to find these records. The Adjutant General shall maintain record of claims of state gratuities for military service rendered by citizens of the state. When authorized by the legislature, shall receive, examine, process, recommend payment of gratuities pursuant to law. The Adjutant General may use the coat of arms of this state with the words State of Michigan, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs as the seal of office when you find that seal, you found the Adjutant General. And he's the one that has the records. And he's the one that liaisons in the transaction of official business for this state with the United States and other states and territories. He's got all the powers of the quartermaster. He's in charge of all the property. And he or she may receive and expend grants from federal sources for these purposes and may enter into agreements with agencies of the federal government for purposes of extending available insurance programs to members and employees of the state military establishment. Well, remember, we're all part of the state military establishment, so he can cut you a better deal for better insurance. We don't need Obamacare. We need the freaking the Adjutant General to show us the plan. But here's the really good part. Besides the Adjutant General shall appoint Inspector General, so that's something to find. Staff Judge Advocate. The Adjutant General shall, as Staff Judge Advocate, an officer of the National Guard, shall be an attorney at law licensed to practice in the state. He shall perform the duties required of him in the administration of military justice, or to perform other legal duties of a official nature. The Adjutant General shall provide within his office for the administration of military justice as provided in the State Code of Military Justice, and shall administratively supervise the claims in behalf of personnel of the state military establishment and the public generally against the United States or the state under the Federal Tort Claims Act and other state and federal acts. 32.720 of the Michigan Compiled Laws, that would be MCL 32.720, states that the Adjutant General shall appoint a staff judge advocate, an officer of the National Guard who shall be an attorney at law licensed to practice in the state. He shall perform the duties required of him in the administration of military justice, or to perform other legal duties of an official nature. Those are the ones we're going for. The Adjutant General shall provide within his office for the administration of military justice as provided in the State Code of Military Justice, and shall administratively supervise the claims in behalf of personnel of the state military establishment and the public generally as against the United States or this state under the Federal Tort Claims Act or other state and federal acts. He's your attorney to file a federal tort claim, which is exactly what I'm going to do against the government for none of its officers taking their fucking oath. That's stealing my identification. So that's going to work on this week. But go find this in yours, and this is the person who has a duty to file your claim for you against the United States for federal tort claims. Your claim is they stole your identity, or your claim is that they are denying you due process. Right? They're violating your civil liberties because the people that are trying to take you to court are all officers of something. And to have that authority, they had to have taken the proper oath, which is in the 6th article of the Constitution. The only ones that don't are non-commissioned officers. Because the Constitution states, it's in Article 2, I think it's Section 3 for the President, that the President will commission all officers of the United States. Right? So if it's not a commissioned office, that's not what they're talking about. But it would have to say it's non-commissioned officer. And so they don't have to take it, and so they, to me, appear to be the only ones who are properly in the military right now. That's why I had mentioned to you Mr. Donald John Trump to ask an NCO if you file procedures or need a do-over. Just get the Sergeant Major of the Army, call him in your office, close the door, and say, brother, tell me the truth. Let's see what he has to tell you. And then get your attorney staff together and ask them, what the fuck is this? So I'm going to leave it there. I got work to do. I got a complaint to write. See y'all.
These are We the People News. Bye, y'all.